It's the early 2000s, and I used to make weekly trips to the market with my mom. The promise of a game rental, a snack, or a magazine was just too powerful for me to ignore. You get it, right? You gotta remember, this was like 2002. Personal computers were nowhere near as personal as they are today. Our family would share a computer for like another 5 years or so. While I loved using the quickly growing internet, I still got most of my gaming news from magazines, as did most of the kids my age. And it would be one of those magazines, probably Tips and Tricks, that would introduce me to this absolutely baffling machine. Wow, so I finally got a PSX. Like I mentioned, I've been thinking about this for a long time. The moment finally came where all the stars aligned, and I went for it. This unit does actually work. We're going to be taking a deep dive on it today. This is a 5000 series model, a 5100 to be exact. You can tell because this logo here is embossed instead of colorful. The 7000 models kind of have a almost like a glass plastic clear coat over the entire thing, almost like acrylic, that gives it kind of like a raised look, almost like some of the PSP models had. They have a blue logo. This is obviously an embossed logo. I've never actually seen one of these things in person until I owned one. I've been to Japan several times, but I've just never really had the luck of running into one. I know that they're out there. They're not necessarily rare in Japan. They're certainly more rare than other PlayStation models. The sales numbers on these things are a little shaky, but besides having a really good opening day, they really didn't sell very well, so there aren't that many out there. This is one of the PSX 1 models, kind of a confusing thing there. They've got the 5000 and 7000, the 5100 like this, and the 7100. And then they have a second series of two models, the 55 and 57,000, and the 75 and 77,000, in the same vein. Those second two models, the 55 and the 57, are considered PSX 2. They got a few little differences. For one, they can actually run at the higher level of the operating system, the final iterations of the operating system. They also have an FPGA board inside of them that allows them to play PSP videos, which is kind of interesting. I guess like the encoding of the PSP video is something that this unit can't really handle. But besides that, all the PSX models, the 5 and the 7 series, all the way down, are extremely similar in the way that they actually look. I can't wait any longer. Let's just dive right into it. While the PSX does use standard DualShock 2 controllers, it actually came with this really cool remote. I guess it's called the RMTP002J. So yeah, that remote something. The blue button up there exits the game, the green button turns it on and off, you got an eject. So it's actually kind of useful for exiting back to the XMB, which you can control using this little nub. It's actually pretty flexible, better than the circle pad on a 3DS, that's for sure. You got your PlayStation buttons there. Got a home button right here, home. Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to the remotes that came out for the PS2, but this nub and a few of these extra features like the return to the XMB and whatnot make it a pretty cool remote. The only issue is I looked at a ton of them and I couldn't find one that wasn't absolutely yellowed. Just how it is, unfortunately, but it's in pretty good shape. Ultimately, it works really well. It's pretty responsive, the nub's pretty nice, and it's got literally every button you could imagine wanting on here. Especially that green and blue one, though. Okay, so as mentioned previously, the PSX is a DVR, so it actually boots up to the static of the analog input. So as you can see here in the top right, we got that little blue circle. That's actually the XMB loading. The full interface isn't loaded yet. I can't actually go left and right. I can change my TV channel with this kind of overlay XMB, but until that OS is fully loaded when that circle goes away, now I can go left and right. And then I jump over to here, I select this setting, and we've turned off the static of death. We're fully in the XMB. Alright, so now that we've got that static background gone, I'm just going to kind of walk you through the UI here. Some of this is my first time seeing it, and some of it I've actually been messing with this week. I don't plan to use this unit long term because that's not really... I would say it's not really fair to the unit. It's not really built for this kind of thing, as I mentioned previously. So I kind of want to catalog as much as I can of it and show it to you guys and see what we got here. So first I want to talk about PSBB. So this is PlayStation Broadband. This is something that actually does run on PS2. There's a great video, I'm going to link it right here, by an awesome YouTuber that goes into extreme detail about this. I'm not really going to go into that level of extreme detail here, but the long short of it is, from my understanding, this was a broadband service that you could connect to in Japan. You can connect your PS2, and as you can see, you can also connect your PSX. It's built right into the XMB here, to broadband, and download game information, game trailers, and actually download games. Now, a friend of mine made a joke about how on the PS2 there wasn't really any storage to store these things, but it's important to remember that on the PS2 there was actually a hard drive bay in the back of it where you could fit a regular old IDE hard drive. They could be pretty large. I think the one I've got in my PlayStation's 160 gigs, which, as far as I can tell, is the same as what's in this device. There was a 160 gig model and a 250 gig model. I've got the 160 gig. I'll put those up on the screen there for you. So there was space on this device to download games, and you actually could do it. To kind of get a taste of how this worked, though, let's take a look at the info screen here. And I already know what's going to happen, but I'll leave you in suspense. Alright, so this is pretty simple. It's saying that the network settings are not configured. It actually says, unable to connect to the network, please check your settings, error number 100. So I am not only not in Japan, but I'm also not in the 2000s. And if I was in the 2000s, I'd be able to use this service. But unfortunately, it's all offline at this point as far as I can tell. You can connect to some of these things if you use a backed up image on the PS2. But this is the XMB of the PSX with no modifications or anything. This is just what's on the device straight out of the box. So in that way, we cannot connect to these things. But I'll just quickly run through what the channels that are installed on here are, so you can kind of get a feel for what would have been on there. So we got PlayStation Now. I'm assuming that's just like information about the actual PlayStation, not really about games in particular, because then we've got Sony Computer Entertainment Japan. That would probably be where stuff like, for instance, Parappa would have showed up, published by Sony games, things like that. Maybe like Jak and Daxter, things like that. Then, of course, we've got Capcom here, and I think that just says Capcom Channel. Yep, Capcom Channel. This is Koei, like Koei Tecmo, Game City. I don't think Tecmo was actually merged with Koei yet, but, nowadays they're Koei Tecmo. Got the Konami channel, back when they were at their peak, in my opinion. Namco channel, which, some good stuff. Bandai, funny that these guys ended up next to each other, because now, of course, they're merged. Hudson, Hudson Soft, good stuff. We got EA channel. We got ISO.net, and I'm actually going to look up what that is because I didn't know either. So this is Interactive Services for Amusement Online. So what it looks like this is it's a company that was kind of published through Sega, and they had remember those Dream Passport discs that were everywhere in Japanese Dreamcast lots for a long time? So I guess the way that this works is it links to arcade machines, which is kind of cool. So you could kind of get arcade stats from these things, which is really cool. Big Lobe, on the other hand, I can't find much info about. I found a blog, but it's not really helping me find any info. So, if you're interested, please, let me know in the comments what Big Lobe is. I'm curious. It looks very Japanese, and it's like Big Globe, you know what I mean? So I'm going to actually skip over playing a game for the time being. I'm going to do that at the end of the video and show off something else. But this right here is memory card utility, and this is where we've got the PS2 and PS1 memory cards. I actually did run out to the store to get another memory card. I thought it'd be more fun to see one that's all loaded up with stuff rather than my old memory cards are actually back at my parents' place. So I wanted to see what this looked like. And here we've got, I played some Tekken 5 on this in the system config. We can open it up even further. You might notice this is actually the 3D model that you would see on the PlayStation 2's memory card utility screen. You can see even closer here. Now, this is a copy function, and as much as I want to do this to show you what this did, I don't want to mess too much with the hard drive on this device because it works at the moment. But basically, what it would do is it would copy from your memory card to your saves on your hard drive. Now, as far as I can tell, you'd actually need to copy them back to the memory card. It's only like a cold storage, but I think that is the coolest thing ever. I actually want to know what it says there when it flips over. I didn't catch that. But you could copy your saves onto that hard drive and store tons of them. And obviously you had to copy them back, but that's not a big deal, right? So this says no data. Yeah, so that just says no data. And then the other options we've got here, so we got copy on the top. That's an easy one to read. And then we've got move. It's probably copy to another memory card, move to the hard drive, delete, and then information. And if I do information, this just tells us a little bit about, it's funny, it actually thinks it has the dates completely wrong here. That first one says location, so I guess, you can move them to the hard drive. I'm sorry, the first one says Tekken 5. The second one says location. The third one tells you the size. Then we got the update time, the type of data, so PlayStation 2 save data, and then operating conditions on the bottom, which is kind of interesting. I'm wondering, maybe there's like a secondary setting there, but then we've got the system config, you got the PS2 spitting there. And now finally, we've also got the PS1 saves, and these are kind of cool because it takes a moment for them to load, but you can see they kind of just pop in here with their old school PlayStation 1 artwork, which I really like personally. I think this is the coolest thing. This person played SpongeBob Super Sponge, which was one of the first games I got at the launch of the PS2 back in the day, which is kind of cool. They got Spyro 1 and 2, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Final Fantasy 4, which is kind of interesting. Must have had the collection disc. But yeah, so I thought this was kind of cool to take a look at this memory card, but in the same way, you hop into this. Oh, you can. Nice. It's triangle to manage them. Oh, I clicked copy. I guess we're going to see what's happening here. Okay, so you can copy it directly onto the hard drive. I kind of want to do it, but I'm going to restrain myself just for the strength of that hard drive. Reading and writing to it, I just don't know what's going to happen when it writes. I don't think I'm writing much information to it by just messing with this. So that's all we got for games here. I do really like these icons. I mean, this looks like straight out of the PS3. This Your Saves icon. I mean, these are kind of, I think they would reuse something like this on the actual PS3 XMB, but this icon here, it's just crazy to think that sort of design language started back in 2003 on this device. So I think that's really cool. So this is actually for the TV set, and I can't show much here. I am going to plug something into this device and show that off, but this is like the timing. So like you reserve a time for when you want it to record. So I guess it's like, how long do you want me to record? I'll automatically record that channel starting at this time, going until this time, and it tells you how much space it will use on the hard drive when you want to dub it. Because you can actually plug a microphone into this thing and dub over your recorded footage, which I think is really cool. Obviously, I'm not interested in that. These options here are confirm and cancel. I'm actually just going to back out. So you could use this just as a straight up DVR. I know that anybody younger than me probably doesn't know what a DVR is, but the long short of it is it would record TV programs for you. You just tell it when you want it to record it, and it would record it for you, and in some cases it would do that automatically. So this is the list of things that you've set up here, so we can actually look at this. There's nothing on the list, which makes sense because I'm not in 2000s Japan watching TV. This is the program list, and I think it would pull this from that guide, like almost like a TV guide. It doesn't really have anything here. It has the date, but obviously there's no real information about it. I wonder if this would have been pulled from the internet, but I assume that this would have given you information about what was on this channel. Okay, cool. So you can go time by time through here, and then that in the bottom says options, and then these are basically talking about, trying to read them kind of carefully. I can read some of it without the Google Translate, but when we get into the kanji, I start to get a little bit confused. So look at ads, topics, keywords, programs, by keyword, genre, channel, and the schedule by time. So you can kind of break it down here. The keyword. You can kind of break it down here and search through this TV guide. Kind of cool. Probably very helpful for a DVR, I would assume. Yes, we're not interested in setting anything. So I can't show you Japanese TV. I don't have that. I'm an American living in 2025, so I don't have analog TV coming into a coax cable at this moment, unfortunately. But what I do have is this line option down here. So I'm going to show you what this probably would have looked like to use as a DVR. So as you can see, this is a PC Engine game. I actually have my physical PC Engine running through here, and I can actually record footage of the PC Engine and store it on the hard drive. So although I'm very hesitant to do so, I think I'm going to do that just to show it off here. So I'm actually recording this footage right now of PC Engine 2, great game. Let it play through the title screen here. So you could connect your TV, you could connect your other game consoles, and record some footage. Then you can stop the recording. You can see here that I think it's aware that it is stopped. So I'm actually going to back out. You can see here, I can see the game behind the XMB, which is extremely cool. You know, this is probably what you would expect that the PS2 is going to be able to do, but unfortunately when we get there, you're going to see not quite. And then we've got our video we recorded here, so let's switch over to that. And this video has been recorded by the PSX of the PC Engine, and it's actually stored on here now. I wonder, can I kind of like, yeah, you can see there's like a blue line, a nice cool looking blue line there that shows you where we're at in the video. I can go backwards. I can't reverse it, but I can go back. Can I seek? Yeah, you can seek backwards. Not 100% sure. I have not used a DVD player in forever. Yeah, you can go backwards here. So it basically runs like analog video. It's actually a pretty smooth seek backwards if you go times 10. Times 2, not so much, but times 10. That's pretty cool. So we actually recorded some video on this DVR. We actually used it as a DVR, so no one can say that it's not a DVR and a PlayStation, because at this point it's been used as a DVR. Just one time, probably, in all of my time owning this thing. Probably the only time I'll use it, but very cool, and I really dig the way that you can actually, if you switch to line and then you switch back, you can view the game behind the XMB, which I think is extremely cool. You know, this is how, you know, that's like basically a PS3 there. I mean, we're looking way forward here. So let's take a look at the music for now, and I'm going to jump into this disc. Now, fair warning, this is probably going to get me demonetized. I don't even know if I'm going to turn monetization on for this video, because this is the option that I've got. I tried burning a disc of my own music to play on here, and the readable CD was just not getting picked up. I'm not certain if that's because the type of burn that I did wasn't actually viewable by these lasers. The PSX actually has two lasers in it, a DVD writing laser and basically a PS2 laser for everything else. So it can write to a DVD, but everything else the PS2 handles. And I'm assuming that also means writing to a CD. I'm not actually sure about that. But the thing is, the DVD write laser is actually used to determine the type of media that's been inserted into the PSX. And what that means is that was, you know, brand new technology at that point. It generally has a little bit of trouble reading, and you'll see that when I insert the PS2 discs later. They really are pretty slow. But the long short of it is, as much as I would love to play my own music, it just wasn't being picked up. So I picked something else here, and we're just going to run right into it. I want to show off some of the visualizers. I'm pretty sure, and I'm going to confirm right now on the screen, that this is very similar to what the PS2 has. But I think some of this might be unique, so I want to catalog it here just in case. So when you jump into your disc, you can choose which song you want. I'm going to start on song 2 because I think maybe if we skip the first song, we'll dodge some copyright here. So we got the Sega Rally soundtrack here. You can open the XMB over the top of your music while it's playing, which is kind of cool. Let's see. Go to the next song here. So that's perfect. I think if I hit this, I should go back. Cool. In the bottom there, we've got switch the visualizer. So let's just kind of run through these. We've got the rainbow colors, which is really cool. I like this sort of explosion. Very nice. Here we've got the squiggle. We'll call it the vibe zone. The squiggly vibe zone. This is my favorite one. It kind of reminds me of that Tribe Called Quest album cover. I really like this one a lot. I think this one's really cool. And I love how like sharp that signal is on those. Very nice. This is Vibe Zone 2, the fiery vibe zone. I like this cube. This looks very PS2 to me. Now playing, if you just, wanted this to be sitting aside and tell you what it's doing without it being vibey. This is for if you're lame. And then we've got like the ultimate 2000s like baked JPEG image. And then we're back to this kind of globe and this rainbow colors. So I really like those. I think if I hit start, I can pause the music here for a minute. Oh, that's kind of cool that you can pause the visualizer as well. So, what's this? So that will tell you what that says disk remaining. So I can actually pull different file types to the disk and rip them, which is kind of interesting. Okay, so you hit triangle on the actual song. You've got reproduction. So I wonder if that's just like playing, intake, and information. So information will tell us kind of like the bit rate or the size of the song on the disk. I'm wondering which one of these is to copy to the hard drive. I am interested in doing that. Man, I'm kind of nervous to do it, but you know what? Screw it. Let's do it. All right, so what do we got here? Select the album you want it to go to. I'm gonna create a new one. All right, so definitely a bit nerve-wracking here. I don't know if I'm gonna completely kill this hard drive by doing this. Probably should not be writing to it. Nervous, but worth it. All right, so that looks like it worked because it's got shta at the end. All right, so now we go back, and now we've got albums saved on the hard drive of the PSX. We got the one song because that's all I wanted to save. So now we're actually reading off the hard drive, which I will not be doing that often. Oh, of course, I saved the shortest song. I'm actually glad I did, so I didn't write that much. So that's actually reading off the hard drive now. So you can rip the disk directly to your console. Not actually sure if the PS3 could do that. I will confirm on the screen, but very cool. So we got the CD and we've got the actual album. All right, now we're moving on to photos. I believe you could put photo discs like CDs, photo CDs and photo DVDs that I'm sure at the time in Japan, with how insanely fast the photography industry was growing at this point, I'm sure that probably wasn't uncommon. But what most people would probably be using is a memory stick from Sony, a memory stick Pro in most cases. Gamers hate these because they were the proprietary save format that you needed for your PSP, and they were extremely expensive compared to, at the time, SD cards, which were kind of like a standard. So I can't actually show you anything here, but I did want to point out that if you wanted to view videos, which you could view, I believe they would show up here because this just says video in general. It doesn't really say like video disc. I mean, that says video disc, but that actually I think says save to the disc if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. So that says dubbing, so if you want to overdub stuff. But videos from the memory stick taken on your PSP were not actually supported the way that photos were. Videos were supported by later models. So like I mentioned, I've got a 5100 model. The 55 and the 57,000 models had an FPGA board inside of them that basically allowed them to encode and decode PSP video, which I think is hilarious. There was just no way in software they were going to make this happen. They had to include a separate board, an FPGA of all things, to kind of emulate that hardware of the PSP to be able to decode that video and play on the PSX. And so, the time has finally come to actually play some games on this thing. So, let's just dive right into it. I'm going to insert a PlayStation 1 game first. Alright, so as you can see, that actually took a moment. Like I mentioned, the PSX uses its writable DVD laser to decide what disc is in the system. It did accurately figure out that this is a PlayStation CD. As you know, PlayStation CDs have a black bottom, and PS2 CDs have a blue bottom. It does actually differentiate on this screen between CDs, DVDs, so on and so forth. So I will actually be trying two different types of PS2 games here. But let's just jump into this PS1 game and see how this works. So this is telling us that the game, like basically the game mode of the console is switching. The PSX is not a PlayStation 2 DVR. It's a DVR with a PlayStation 2 kind of as a roommate. So what it's done at this point is completely switched over to PlayStation 2 mode. In this case, PlayStation 2 emulating, or I guess, I actually wonder if this has a physical PS1 inside of it, like the early PS2s, or if it's emulating PlayStation 1. I will let you know on the screen, as always, with all my little fact checks. So the PSX has a D-Link output on it, and that D-Link output will actually allow you to get component video out of this thing. You can convert it. It's basically just the Japanese equivalent to component video. So you can get a really sharp, really beautiful picture out of this thing. That's not what you'll be seeing here. So, you know, don't judge it too hard on that. Nope. Okay, so I think it's just these two, right? Yeah, there we go. Well, it doesn't look like I'm going to need it anyway. So as far as PS1 games go, it's no surprise. They let you play PS1 games just like on any PS2. You're able to speed up the disc loading, which I did not do, and you're able to turn on the texture smoothing, which I also did not do. And you've got those PS2 features. That's about it. Other than that, it's just a normal old PlayStation 1 with the controller port in the back. So, uh-oh. Nice. So, no surprises there. That's PS1 games. The thing is, if I want to load back into the XMB, I can't actually do it while I'm in-game. Like I mentioned earlier, the PSX loads a completely separate mode for the PS2 and the PS1 games. So you actually have to press a button either on the remote or on the physical console to switch back out of the game. So I'm going to press that now on the remote. And as you can see, we've kind of just dodged out of the game there. Give it a moment, and we're back to the fun static. So as you can see, this is a PlayStation 2 DVD, not a PlayStation 2 CD. And when it finally boots up here, it's aware that it's a DVD. It's got that shiny bottom on it instead of that bright blue bottom that makes the CDs so interesting. So this is a PS2 game here, and I'm going to load into this, and what you'll find is that it's not very different from the PS1. It really is just a PS2 through and through. Now, what game did I choose to play on here as the PS2 DVD of the day? It's from Genki. It's from the Genki Racing Project. It's Shotoku Battle 01. So let's flash our lights at that guy up there. I keep forgetting that the PlayStation 2 has analog buttons, which is kind of interesting. So let's see if we can beat this Treno here. I fight dirty, what can I say? I just got off Cyberbots. Okay, so you can't use the D-pad in this game. You can see our health bars at the top, our SP. I body blocked him. Uh-oh, that wasn't good for him. You can see nothing's really happening in the health bars right now because I haven't broken away yet. Oh, crap. Uh-oh. Will I be defeated? What? A win? Hell yeah, win combo 1. I'm going to keep playing this, but for now I'm going to cut the video over to a PlayStation 2 CD. Now, I am not the first person on YouTube to play a Sony PSX. I will also not be the first person on YouTube to play a legit copy of Gran Turismo 2000 from the PlayStation Festival 2000. But I probably will be the first person on YouTube to play Gran Turismo 2000 on a Sony PSX. So if you can prove me wrong, please do, but I think I'm probably the first person to ever attempt this. This is probably the only time I'm ever going to play this disc, and the only time I'm ever going to play this PSX. So let's dive right into it. All right, there it is. PlayStation 2 CD with the blue bottom, Gran Turismo 2000. So for a little bit of context, this Gran Turismo 2000 demo was used to show off the PlayStation 2. As mentioned, this specific disc comes from PlayStation Festival 2000, but it's not the only place, as far as I'm aware, that they've shown it off. This is basically Gran Turismo 2 ported up to the PlayStation 2, kind of moving them in the direction of Gran Turismo 3. Now, Gran Turismo 3's original title was actually going to be Gran Turismo 2000, but the game got delayed a year. If you had a PS2 back in the day, I'm sure you remember that, because it was a pretty big deal for what would end up being one of the highest selling games on the PlayStation 2 to get delayed. Gran Turismo 2000. Alright, wow. So we've just got the Lancer, we can change the color. Now, I've been told that I have to pick the Pearl Dandelion. So that's what I'll do. I'm gonna try, you know what? I'll try both modes. I'll try manual when I go on there. Try manual when I go to drift, because that just makes a little bit more sense to me, I think. I guess this is a good time for me to say that I haven't played Gran Turismo in quite a while. Not my best showings today in these games. Not much of a gamer, but that's alright. Can I make it back up though? I've literally got the Lancer here. So as you can see from this early demo, the game looks quite different from the final Gran Turismo 3. We got a different HUD, we've got what looks, in my opinion, to be lower resolution. At the very least, it's lower quality assets. It's really cool. It's got a really cool vibe to it. It really hits that 2000s sort of vibe that you would expect. Now, as mentioned, this was a demo for the show floor, so it is timed to, I believe, just 2 minutes. I actually didn't pay attention there. Got some cool effects here. I can imagine this would have been mind-blowing coming off of the PlayStation 1. I don't think we need to see my horrible driving anymore, but alright, let's try drift and see if I have any better luck with that. Oh my god, what the hell? Anyway, yeah, we're gonna go back to racing. Nice. Nice. Oh, come on. Oh, man. I screwed it up right at the end. So, that's Gran Turismo 2000. And with that, we finish up our look at the Sony PSX 5100. This is a really cool piece of technology. When it comes down to it, it really is just a PlayStation 2 and a DVR. But the connective tissue that would come to define the multimedia era of Sony that was about to begin is something that I think is really unique and really special. You know, the PSP and the PS3 are really multimedia devices. You know, you could watch movies, you could listen to music on both of these devices. On the PS3, you could go on the internet and download stuff. There's a lot of, a lot of concept and a lot of ideas built up here, not just with the XMB, that interface that would end up being used on both those devices, but just the design language and the idea and the direction that they were moving with this. And I think it's really fascinating that this device wasn't even truly designed by the PlayStation team. It's really a DVR that at the last minute they said, hey, wait a minute, let's just shove a PS2 inside of it so that we can switch over to it. So it's a very fascinating device. I've really enjoyed messing around with it, but at this point, I think it belongs right here, safe and sound, not being used, not dying, so that, everything's backed up. When we eventually can keep these things alive over the long term, this one will be safe and sound, you best believe, and taken well care of. So, thanks so much for watching. Give me a subscribe, give me a like. I've been working on a lot of projects and I'm kind of jumping between them, but I really wanted to get this one out as soon as possible. So, thanks so much for your patience. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again soon.